Madlib taught me way more about editing than like any filmmaker ever would, and so and especially like the idea of the sample, that's always playing into everything I do. Like even as we were shooting St. Anne, there really wasn't a script.
Hi, my name's James Lattimer. I'm a programmer for the Berlinale Forum, and I'm very happy to be talking to Rhayne Vermette about her film St. Anne. Welcome.
Thank you so much for giving me space. Yeah, I'm so grateful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Overwhelmed with gratitude, actually. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. So can we maybe start? Could you maybe describe St. Anne in 2 or 3 sentences? It's a tricky task, but give it a go.
It's very tricky. Yeah, especially because, like I said, we just finished the film. So a lot of like me making my films is like I sit with them for a long time, and like years down the road, they start to make sense to me. So, but yeah, I think like St. Anne is a film about many places and many myths. It's like a film that was made with love, and it kind of refracts a lot of like my experiences growing up in rural Manitoba, and family histories and family myths. I would just tell people to like buckle in and like enjoy the ride, meditate, pay attention. Yeah, that's my film in a nutshell.
Filmmaking it can often be quite a sort of a difficult process, and I think over the last year with the current situation we find ourselves in has become all the more difficult a process. And I guess thinking about, both those things, what was the thing that, what were the ideas or the things that kept you going in continuing to work on this film, or working this, bringing the film to a close on that level?
St. Anne was sort of an interesting kind of leap for me creatively. And I think like, yeah, what kind of kept me going was how it was such like a community family affair. Like my dad was like one of the central figures. Like he was sort of like my co-pilot. I think, the respect and love I have for the people who collaborated with me on this film is what sort of was pushing me to like finish it and get it done. But St. Anne was like, we shot for 2 years. I edited for about a year. I was writing and researching for 3 years. So it was a very long-winded process. Yeah. But for sure, my friends, my family, my dad, like that was what kind of kept me going and supported the film. Like everybody who was involved, just like lots of love and prayers went into it, and it wouldn't have gotten done without that.
That's a beautiful thing. That's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, people really just, it was like a microcosm of people involved in this project, and we just all like, it was like method filmmaking. We had to like live with this project for many years, and we were all sort of like helping each other out. And so I think that was like the big thing I learned, was like we are sort of developing this kind of way of working through film and storytelling. Yeah, it's always about storytelling. It's always about like, how much can I give, how much can I, and that's always the big question for me, is how to tell a story.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the use of celluloid, because the look of the film is very striking, 60 millimeter.
Yeah, I have like a very precious relationship with celluloid. Like I kind of, I fell into making films when I was studying architecture, and I didn't really know I was making films at the time. I didn't know there was experimental cinema was a thing, and that it was just really like this kind of following this impetus or these creative drives, which which kind of surround me in all my dimensions of existing. And so when I like sort of was introduced to celluloid, to me, it sort of opened up a door for me to enter into other realms outside of like the physical and kind of the immediacy of an image. Like to me, it's always part of my process. It's far more interesting to me to like shoot something on a Bolex and like spend a month praying and hoping that the images turn out. So I like that delay. I kind of, as I kind of continue working with image making and storytelling, I'm sort of pulling on these weird threads about like this interest in more into the spirit of image making. I always say like, I'm not really interested in how to make a good film. Like I'm more interested in the spirit that surrounds that film. And celluloid is just part of my process. And, and the more I kind of dig on these ideas of like kind of the spirit of images and where that comes from, and those engagements, the kind of these sort of esoteric realms sort of kind of enter my work. And that's so interesting to me. That's so much more interesting to me than crisp 4K, like pristine. I like messy things. I like murky things. I'm really I love cinema and I watch films, but I'm often too busy listening to music. Music is the main thing that inspires me. And I'm really into guys like Madlib, Jay Dilla, guys who kind of follow who follow Sun Ra, who is really into music as a universal language. And so that really filters in. And I'm always thinking about sound. And I was just had visions of things that I wanted in the film, and they didn't really make sense. And I was just improvised. A lot of the best stuff in St. Anne was just stuff that happened last minute, super improvised, no script. Because as we were shooting, I was just in my head, I'm just I just need audio visual samples, and I'm going to figure it out in the edit. And that's always how I work.
The film is set in the Treaty 1 territory, and it's also a very much also a portrait, I think, of that specific landscape, and also of the Métis Nation, which you also belong to. And can you tell me a little bit about your process in terms of representing both the landscape and the nation? I think you referred to the film as a figurative contemplation on the Métis Nation. And can you maybe unpick that?
I see all my work as Métis work, even though it's I made work about an Italian architect and stuff, because I really think of the nation who was symbolized through the infinity sign and kind of located themselves at the center of that infinity, the center of two cultures. And sort of my sort of artistic take on it is I take the infinity sign and I spin it, and there's a lot feeding into that center. So there's a lot of allegorical sort of symbolism and metaphors in there that kind of speaks to a more nuanced thing. My father's family came from St. Anne, and I grew up in Notre Dame de Lourdes. So St. Anne was always that part of my father's family. It always became this symbol, this icon of where my father came from. To me, it's the Métis Nation occupies such a complicated space, and I'm just here to just complicate it further. To me, that's the beauty of it, all the layers. Because it's just, to me, my films are just a mirror, and I'm gonna sit with this film, and things have, and there's even I don't know, there's just interesting things. I had all these visions, these weird visions, and there was these images that I was very much stuck on and that I really much wanted in the film. And they didn't really have rhyme or reason for being there, but I went and shot those images anyways. And then, as I'm sort of continuing my research and just learning, I came across these diary entries which Louis Riel wrote while they were in Batoche, and so much of the images within those diary entries were actually images which I had went and shot. So this is, it's could just be, whatever, but to me that means a lot. And so I kind of have this sort of monologue in the film. That's sort of the way that I work through the film, was kind of this hyper open, process based, information would come in and we would change things. The film also is a love letter to Manitoba, the province of Manitoba. I think, we talk a lot, Winnipeg has its very distinct film culture, which is very Winnipeg centric, but my film is so much about Manitoba. I grew up rural Manitoba, and all the locations are really personal locations. I really see Manitoba and it was all Treaty 1, which is was where the Métis Nation sort of, the seeds were. I think the landscape is such a character in the film, and I just really wanted to just put love into, like, I love Manitoba. I'm never leaving Manitoba. I'm never moving. This is my home, where I come from. It's so beautiful here. Yeah.
I've never been. You're making it sound very appealing. I mean, your film also makes it look very ravishing as well.
That was the light, and that's the thing too. It's like every time we would go to shoot, it would just like the light was just like we had, that we had some nice supernatural, esoteric kind of divine powers, I think, on our side. Like the light was always so perfect anytime we would go shoot. It was just really crazy. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Very blessed. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for giving us your time, and thank you so much for the film.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much.